Here at UTV On Demand, we like to adorn our machines in upgrades that compete and win at the highest level. This helps ensure that we're actually gaining durability and performance for our money spent. There's no bigger waste of money in side-by-sides than to truck your ride for hours just to have your weekend ruined by the failure of an aftermarket part that was actually inferior to the OEM part it replaced. Maverick X3 owners looking to build a rock bouncer, king of the Hammers car, or simply the toughest, fastest, and most capable Maverick imaginable need look no further for examples of upgrades that work than Cody and Hunter Miller's factory Can-Am Maverick X3s.
Hey, I'm Allen Knowles from CT Racing, out here at Hammertown, getting ready for the King of the Hammers event. We're going to cover two of the Can-Am cars driven by the Miller brothers, Cody and Hunter Miller. They've been out here for 2 years, just the last 2 years, driving the King of the Hammers. 2 years ago, Hunter won it. Last year, Cody got second, so they're pretty much at the top of the food chain. Their cars show it. They got a lot of neat stuff, and it's kind of a specific build for this type of racing. It's a unique event, and I'm going to run down, what the cars have on them, and let you know, and see if we get you to understand why they do what they do and how it all works out. So here we go. Texera Tech builds a new set of A-arms style. It's called the Next Level. The Next Level A-arms mount the shock to the lower A-arm where they need to be and should be. And there's a lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of advantages. The problem with the stock setup is the shocks, the rising rate ratio is really bad and turns into declining rate ratio as you get close to bottom. And what that does means they end up having to run a stiffer, heavier spring to stop it from bottoming because it gets so much leverage on the shock. So then you're paying a penalty to have that big gnarly shock on there that stops it from bottoming in the small stuff. There's other advantages to the front end, just the way that when you mount the shock on the lower A-arm, the way that it loads the spindle, it's loading the tire differently, which actually turns into more traction. So the car actually turns a lot better when you do it that way. So there's a whole bunch of pluses. I'd say the biggest negative is that it costs more money. You got to reset the car up, but it's definitely worth it. I've done it to a Polaris that I have, and then these Can-Ams have done it, and their results showed last year. And again, it's just the best way to go. There's other things about the Texera arms. He does all his stuff is high ground clearance, and that really helps a lot, especially when you're climbing through the rocks and doing that kind of stuff. So look up the Texera Tech Next Level A-arms, get to their website, and read up on them, and all that info's there. The control and all that, and the setup for the suspension, it will use stock length shock. The way Texera built it, you basically can get a stock shock revalved and reworked for it. These guys, to do what they need to do, need the best you can get, so they're using the Elka Stage 5s, and then they've been working with George White at Double E to get the valving corrected and all the stuff getting their setup. So that's somebody you can work with to go with Elka Stage 5. I think he's got setups for the stock shocks too, so certainly worth giving a call and seeing what he's got on the suspension. Double E actually does, because he's a suspension guy, he's making these anti-sway bar for this car, and he makes different ones, different tunes for what you're doing. And on this car, he's also not running a front sway bar, and if your suspension's right, you're kind of better off to not run a front sway bar. Sway bar tends to leading to push the front end a little bit, and it's kind of masking some maybe suspension issues. Once you've got it right, you probably like these guys. I don't like the sway bar, they're not running one, so get a good suspension setup and a double E sway bar, and the car's going to handle really good. You can get into the throttle hard early off the corner, and that's really what it's about. That's what he's allowing you to do. Texera does the front and the back. They do their trailing arms and their radius rods. All the Texera stuff is laser cut chrome moly. It's all TIG welded. Even the radius rods and the A-arms, everything has inner baffles in them to make them really strong. So there's just no chance of tacoing any of that stuff. I've tested other ones that people build to try to get the ground clearance when they bend them. And when I run them hard, I end up just straightening them out. I've never had that problem with Texera, and obviously these guys running the King of the Hammers have done it for years and having the same results I have. There's just no failure right there. So yeah, all that stuff from Texera is TIG welded chrome moly. It's top of the food chain stuff, so there you go. One more thing to tie it all together in the back end, he's using a Hess Motorsports knuckle. It has a couple things that are better than stock. One, it's billet. Two, they have a better locking system for the bearings to make it hold up much better. And the center radius rod is double shear on that one. It's just a tougher unit, and if you're going to beat the crap out of it and try to kill the car, it's probably something you'd also want to upgrade. These guys are using Raceline wheels. Again, it's a beadlock wheel that I've used and had no issues with, and they're getting through these tough courses with them. Beadlock's the only way to go. I mean, even for recreational cars, you got to go beadlocks. It allows you to run hard on a flat if you need to, get back to camp. It's nice if you have a spare and can change it, but either way, beadlock is the best way to go, and Raceline just builds a really good wheel for a really good price. Tires, they're using a specific rock collar trial. It's a Maxxis, the Rockzilla tire. They're running a 35, 10, 15. I'm sure it's a soft compound to hook up, and just like this is specifically a rock tire. So if you're doing some adventure stuff, you're not going to get much mileage out of it. But if you need to hook up and go on the rocks, this is an awesome tire. Hess Racing has a lot of stuff on this car. He works with these guys a lot. They're all from Texas. Hess has one of the components that he's more known for is the steering quickener. This car's got the steering quickener on it, and people really like that. It just means you don't have to turn so much and less input. Really good way to go. Also, Hess has a gusset kit to hold the steering rack, to hold it better and stiffen it up. Hess is also doing the radiator. They got a rear-mounted radiator up high. They're running a Hess steering wheel in this car. I did notice on this, and it kind of makes sense to me. Most of my cars, I run a quick-release steering wheel. This one doesn't have that. Probably with all the stuff they do in the rocks, it's just something maybe could break. The chassis on these cars, basically it's a stock chassis. They have to make it legal. But you can look at the photos when you're following the video when we shot the car. You'll see most of the stuff that you can see is stock except the roll cage. They've cut and changed the roll cage. They've changed the dash configuration and lowered that down a little bit. So they have a little bit better sight line for this rock crawling stuff. Now S3 does the cage for them. And the other mod that they're doing on this particular frame is they do what they call a boat side. So you'll see in some of the videos the car is from about 3/4 of the way down turned in to give them more ground clearance to the side, so it's very narrow and it just gives them more ground clearance. So S3 does that setup for them. If you're building a rock collar, that's something to do. If you're not, you don't need it. I quizzed the brothers on the car, and I was surprised. They're running a completely stock motor, stock clutch. They use off-the-shelf clutch. Now, they are reflashed, so they've got the power turned way up. They are running an HMF exhaust. Try to eke out some more power. HMF does some good stuff, and you'll see that in the car. And it's a tough setup. So that's all they have for mods, really, is just the HMF when it comes to horsepower and their tune. In fact, I was pinning them down on the speed. They're right at 100 miles an hour, so they can run that across the desert. They're hoping this car, they hadn't got it tapped out yet. The car I'm sitting on right here, they're looking for maybe 103 or 4, just a little bit more top speed across that dry lake. So it may eke that out, but easy 100 mile an hour car, all stock, just reflash. The Can-Am motors, they just rip. The inlet air filter system, all that has kind of been rerouted for the dust and run up high. That's all they're running is just some stuff to get clean air to the motor and pull it up off the top of the car. You'll see that in the videos. They run Liquid Moly is a sponsor they have for their lubricants, so all the oils, all the diff, all the rear ends is Liquid Moly, and you can get hold of some of that stuff. It's supposed to be really good stuff. Factory UTV, they build the best skids in the world. I've used the factory UTV on a bunch of my builds, and they last forever. And they have them on this car, and then they also factory UTV does make them specifically for the Texera A-arms. And I was talking to Hunter this morning, and he was telling me, I was curious about the duration, how long they can get out of these. He said they get a full year, a full season. They just change it, they build a new car every year, and all new, but they get a whole season out of it. And you look at what these guys, when you see some of the videos of what these guys are pounding through, they aren't slowing down for crap, and they're just bouncing this thing off rocks, boulders, anything else they can possibly hit out there, and it holds up all year. So that's a good testament to the factory UTV stuff. And I really like it on my, even my recreational destination builds, because the stock ones, when you go down a trail and you come back the other way, you'll see pieces of your skid hanging all over the place. So yeah, get a good factory UTV skid on there.
With Hunter Miller winning the King of the Hammers his first time out in 2020, and Miller Brothers Racing finishing on the podium in 2021 and 2022. Their Maverick X3 upgrades have proven themselves in the heat of battle in the worst of conditions. Thanks to Miller Brothers Racing and Factory Can-Am for providing us with this inside look at their race machines. And thanks to all of you for watching. To learn more about the Maverick X3, make sure to subscribe to UTV On Demand so you don't miss our upcoming test of the 2022 200 horsepower Can-Am Maverick X3 Turbo RR with Smart Shocks.